Wolves in 5 isn't just something the kids like to say. It's a reality again, Ryan Kostecka. 2 series in a row where the Wolves, take care of business in, I wouldn't, dominant fashion maybe isn't quite the right word, but I felt like they definitely understood the assignment tonight, which was get it done. Get don't toy around too much with Golden State. Don't give them any ideas about trying to get Steph Curry back for a game 6. Just finish it off and don't keep it as drama free as possible. And I think they by and large did that in advancing Ryan to their second consecutive Western Conference Finals.
A little bit of team history there. First time ever they went to back-to-back Western Conference Finals. Reports really broke out. I think what's most impressive about this Wolves victory is that reports broke out game time, or right about maybe an hour before game time, that there's a good chance Steph Curry is going to return for game 6. So you would think with that kind of knowledge for the Warriors, that's an extra boost for them.
Right.
A little extra, kind of oomph that they're going to need tonight. And the Wolves just, took it out of them. I was very impressed with it. Yes, fourth quarter got a little sloppy. They're going to have to clean that up. But I think they kind of felt that it was in control the whole time. They had that huge, quick 5-0 spurt where Ant hit the 3 and McGann was going to steal and dunk. But a really professional victory, I want to say.
Yeah.
Went about their business, handled their business. They were unstoppable on offense. I mean, they shot 62.8% from the floor and 13 to 31, so 42% from 3. I mean, that's just taking care of your business and getting it done. Not to mention the way they played defensively. Yeah. All along, it kind of felt like the Wolves they felt in control of the game, but it wasn't there was no kind of arrogance to it. It was just, we're going to go about our business and we're going to do what we do. And once again, Finch made great halftime adjustments. This team is they're well-rounded. They're deep. Dante came alive today. We'll talk about Mike Conley, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
So,
he's on my list.
Just a great win, a very professional, mature victory tonight.
I agree. And you could tell the way Chris Finch was coaching this game that he understood the moment too. Like he was making sure they were staying locked in. He was staying on Anthony Edwards. They still only played their 8 guys. It wasn't like they got comfortable. Even up 21 going into the 4th, it wasn't like, hey guys, we can kind of breathe easy, take the foot off the gas. Like anytime you saw him interacting with anybody, it was like, hey, this thing's not over till it's over. Like this is an elimination game. There's a lot of guys on Golden State with a lot of, a professional pride, championship pedigree. And like you said, the Curry news tilts this so that you figure Golden State's going to come out with a lot of energy. And I actually thought they did. I just thought the Wolves were better. I just thought this was maybe the best game they've played in this series.
This is the game where the Wolves seem to match the Warriors' energy. The Warriors came out with a lot of energy, a lot of focus, and the Wolves matched that, which honestly, we expected them to maybe have to pull this out, have another big third quarter, and then win in the 4th type of situation. But no, they matched the Warriors step for step. The Wolves, I thought, they were locked in defensively from the very beginning, which was their most impressive aspect, I thought. The communication was great. Rudy was dominant. They did a great job of funneling the Warriors to Rudy and then, closing out on shooters. I just thought, overall it was a performance that you didn't necessarily expect from the Wolves, but you knew that if they are going to be serious as Western Conference Finals contenders and, title contenders, this is what they have to do. Look at New York and Boston tonight.
Mm-hmm.
New York had a chance. This is the game they should have closed out. Boston got the win. Heading back, game 6, momentum's with the Celtics now. The Wolves didn't play with any of that. They didn't toy with their food. They made a statement from the beginning and said, hey, we're going to be here the entire game. And they did. They worked.
Yep. You mentioned Conley. Now, every starter was in double figures, so it's hard to just, single anybody out. They all the starters I thought were tremendous. But Conley in particular, like first half, he's getting them going with the threes. Late in the game, man, I'm sure they're glad he's out there to, when everybody's missing a couple free throws here and there, when they need someone to just calm it down, have a deep possession that ends in something good. I mean, he was, the numbers were good too tonight. 16 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. Like they have leaned on him more in this series probably than they have in a long time, but I'm sure they are still damn glad that they have Mike Conley on their roster.
For anyone who wants to know how valuable Mike is or how anyone on the team in Finch looks at Mike and values Mike, when the Warriors went to hack a Gobert, they were down, Warriors are down 9. There's like 5.5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. They go to hack a Gobert because Rudy had just missed 2 free throws, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of bringing in Nas or who are on the bench at the time, what does Finch do? He brings in Mike Conley. That tells you everything you need to know about the trust he has in Mike and Mike's ability to stand up defensively, not be great, but just not get picked on. And then on top of that, his ability to really just calm things down, settle the offense down, and it showed. I mean, Ants 3, that was a product of Conley, controlling that offense, getting them exactly how they wanted to get set up. I mean, it's little things like that that make the difference in a series like this, and they can make a difference between, a finals run and being eliminated in the Western Conference Finals. And Mike really showed, his maturity tonight and what he, means to this team, and it's impressive. It really is.
This whole series has been about Ant to a certain degree, but I really feel like it's been the Julius Randle series.
Yes.
Kind of, they had him on post game on TNT, and they showed, they talked to him about the redemption angle, and basically he didn't want to have any of that. But this kind of is a redemption tour for him. This whole playoffs and this series. I mean, he's been great in this game. 13 of 18 from the field, some clutch fourth quarter baskets to kind of keep Golden State at arm's length. Finishes 29 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Yeah, he turns it over 5 times and turned it over 7 times. I mean, they got a little sloppy at times.
We'll talk about that.
And had like back-to-back turnovers in the fourth quarter that it was just kind of like careless stuff. Like he looked a little bit gassed at the end of this game too. Like he had been given so much, and he still wound up with 22, 12, and 7. So I'm not, it's 3 blocks. So I'm not. This is not like Ant was, the problem, but 7 turnovers, 5 for Julius. Like they're gonna have to clean that up. But ultimately, like those guys were so good that it kind of covered for those kind of moments.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm gonna read you Randall's stats from postseason. For this series. 25.2 points, 7.4 assists, 6.6 rebounds.
Yeah.
Shot 53% from the floor, 95.7%. Missed only 1 free throw all series. The one game the Wolves lost, Randall was 4 of 11 from the field and 0 of 3.
Yeah. Okay. I think he was the series MVP. I think he was the series MVP if they gave one.
Yes.
If they gave one.
If they gave one, no doubt. But they are not here without Julius Randle. I mean, they're not winning in 5 without Big Jew. I thought, it is a redemption tour for him. He doesn't want to say it is, but it's in the back of his mind. His teammates really seem to kind of egg him on in that sense, like understand how important this is to him, and they're really there to support him for it, and they're really finding him in good spots. I thought he was great again tonight. I thought he was much better this series than he went against the Lakers. Against the Lakers, he struggled in the fourth quarter quite a bit with just kind of some stupid plays and just trying to be hero ball and take over. Not this time. He did a great job of kind of controlling, his game. 12 assists one game, 11 assists another. I mean, to average more assists than he does rebounds is very impressive for him. I thought he was great. Like I said, if they gave out an MVP, it would 100% be Big Jew.
Hypothetical for you, seeing how the last 4 games played out, what do you think this series would have been if Curry hadn't gotten hurt?
So it's funny. I was actually asked this question. We were talking about up here in Press Row, and my family is all from the Bay Area, big Warrior fans.
Yeah.
I think this series goes 6 games, and I think it ends there with if Curry is healthy. I just, the Warriors obviously still game 1 without Steph. That happens. No, that's understandable. I do think they probably get game 3 at home as well.
Yeah.
That would have been my guess. Wolves win 2, 4, and 5 here, and I think the Wolves would have closed it out in 6 personally.
Okay.
There was just Steph is phenomenal. I mean, what he does to this offense, it's completely different. But I guess on the flip side is Kuminga doesn't do what he does without Steph out there.
True.
And we can argue that. My best friend Ryan Brown, we've had big debates about this.
Yeah.
I think that it's proven that Kuminga has really issues playing with Steph and Jimmy.
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse. I mean, people are going to say, oh, well, Steph and Kuminga and Jimmy no, Kuminga can't play with those two. It's been proven. That's why he was out of the rotation, by a Hall of Fame coach who was out of the rotation.
Right.
So, I think, the series ended the way it's supposed to with the Wolves winning. I think it might have gone 1 extra game with Steph.
I think that's fair. It might have gone 7 just because Curry is so good. He might have shot them through a game. Obviously, it would have been closer. Like, it just felt like the whole series – the Golden State is at least one player short with Curry.
Yes.
I think what a lot of these games came down to is they couldn't get enough of their kind of complementary players going at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they had a Buddy Hield game. Today was the Pachinski game. They got Kuminga going fairly consistently, but then you didn't get a whole lot from Butler this game. He had 17 points. He was a -17, and he's a bit of a no-show. these last 2 games when they have a chance to get back in the series and maybe get this to a game 6 with Curry. So they just couldn't get enough of their other complementary players going. Whereas the Wolves, 1 through 8, I mean, you've got the star, and then you've got Randle, the really good kind of 2 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else on a given night can get 15.
Oh, yeah, easily.
You know, that's the difference, I think, between these 2 rosters. I think the Wolves still had the depth to beat Golden State, but man, this would have been I think it would have been a much more fun series. As it was, it became more a battle of the Wolves versus expectations. And honestly, that's been a struggle for them in the past. So kudos to them for, going straight through. And I was, I took some heat after game 1. I said, I think the Wolves are going to win in 5 because you could look at you could look at the severity of the Curry injury, and you could look at how this could play out. And here we are, Wolves in 5, and it was they just kind of took care of business along the way.
Exactly. It's a type of people don't. I don't know if people understand this, but it's a type of series that you look back at this, and the way they went about their business, they didn't play with their food. They took care. They won the next 4 games. That's a championship mentality. It's clear this team has much bigger thoughts than just even making the Western Conference Finals. I mean, last year it felt like even that comeback against Denver. It felt like the Wolves were maybe playing a little bit of house money, you could say.
Yeah, I think so last year.
The Suns were a shell of who they are.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be I don't know. I think it was a very professional showing by the Wolves. It's a team that clearly understands, hey, we have bigger aspirations. We want to not just get to a finals, we want to win the finals. And if we want to get there, we can't mess around right now. We have to handle our business and take care of it. And they did that. That's what was impressive. Also, look, I'll be honest, between Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, good Lord, any team is just going to be an absolute defensive hell on the wing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened to Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy was frustrated the entire time. I mean, he's getting switched between Ant and Jaden. I mean, Ant's strength, Jaden's length. What do you do there?
I know.
It's just they just swallow you up completely, and they completely took out either Pajemski or Hield. I mean, it's a really impressive showing between those two. And you look at the rest of the roster can play defense, and they're no slouches themselves. But it's a team that I think wins on defense. That's kind of their identity in a sense.
That's their core
with the wings, and it's impressive to watch, and that's what makes them so scary. Is that there are going to be games they're not going to shoot well, but that defense travels, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, just go back to Game 5 against LA when they shot 7 of 47 from 3, and they still end up winning that game. I mean, as long as they shoot marginally well, and they shot much better as this series went along, they're going to be in any game. Let's get to a few comments because we've got a bunch of good ones. One on StreamYard here. He said, just joined. Who do we want, Oklahoma City or Denver? Now, we talked about this a little bit the other day when it was kind of the hypothetical. The series was 2-2 at that point. Man, Denver is going to regret Game 5 a lot, I think, because that was right there for them again. Oklahoma City comes back on them, wins that. Game 6 tomorrow in Denver. I think it's a decent chance the Nuggets make it to 7. I think Oklahoma City ultimately wins this series, though. They're in too good of a position after winning Game 5. I don't know exactly who I think the Wolves should want, just because I think Denver has, 3 guys who can absolutely just dominate you on a given night, and they have the best player on the planet. Oklahoma City is certainly more balanced. I'm a little bit more worried, though, about Oklahoma City. I just think they've found a little something at the end of Game 5 that might get them on a little bit of a run now. It's been a little bit of a struggle in this Denver series. They might have found a little bit of their footing in this at the end of Game 5.
So I tend to agree with you there, honestly. I do think Denver probably wins Game 6. I know Tony Jones from The Athletic, one of my best friends, family to me. We had his talk. He thinks the Nuggets are kind of just they're struggling, but this seems like a Jokic is going to pull a game out. Aaron, something's going to happen. It's going to go to 7. Which if you're Wolves, that's no matter what Wolves fans,
you want.
That's all you want. You want Denver tomorrow. You want this to go 7. Okay, you want to put more legs, more miles on these guys. With that being said, oh man, if you're a Wolves fan, people would probably say you want Denver because you've had a lot of success against Denver. There's some history there. But I kind of tend to think you maybe want OKC, even though I do agree with you, Rand. I think OKC found something in the Game 5 there. But there's something about OKC that still kind of scares me. That doesn't scare me. I think they're still a little green.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
There's they tend to clench up a little bit. I haven't really seen a game yet where they're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And I know I can't imagine. I know people talk about Chet Holmgren, local kid, great defensive player. Julius Randle might eat him alive. You know,
Yeah.
he really might. And you got the Julius Randle versus Isaiah Hartenstein teammates last year. Going at it. The storylines there, Shea, Cousins. I mean, and Shea is like, okay, who actually is going to be the best player in the future in the NBA?
Right.
I mean, the storylines just write themselves, so
Yeah.
it's going to be fun regardless. But I think if you're the Wolves, you're not afraid to take anyone. But if you had to pick and choose, I kind of think I would take the inexperienced team over taking the best player on the planet. That's just me.
Michael on X says, "What does Coach Finch say to the players, and what does he really want to say to the players?" He can't be. I think I think he's got to be happy. I mean, again, no game is going to be perfect. Like, this team will go through maddening stretches where you're like, "Oh, what did you do that for? Why did you do that? What's going on here? How can you have back-to-back turnovers? How can you not box out on a free throw?" Like they got sloppy at the end of the fourth quarter in 2 straight games. It didn't cost them. But I think they do have a tendency towards those lapses still. But I think ultimately he's got to be happy with them because they, like we said, they met the moment tonight. It wasn't perfect, but they met the moment tonight. They understood the assignment and they executed the assignment.
First off, I'm like, I'm not sure if Finch is ever happy. So, there is that.
Well, yeah.
I do know he's probably going to enjoy a beer tonight. That's my guess. But I think I mean, to answer the question specifically is whatever Finch wants to say to the guys, he's going to say. He's never going to sugarcoat anything with 100%. These guys. I mean,
100%.
I think he's going to, proud of him. We got the win. You get the day's rest, which is big, but, kind of lock that, for lack of a better term, lock that stuff up in the late games. He's always coaching. And so I think the message is good showing. We can't get away with that in the fourth quarter against Denver, Oklahoma City. That won't fly. If Steph's playing, you probably can't get away with that against Steph.
Yeah.
So I think that's the real clear message. But also the message has got to be just, hey, great. We're in the Western Conference Finals, but we haven't done anything.
Yeah. And can't be happy to be here. I felt like last year they were a little happy to be there. I mean, and they had every opportunity to win that series. They were the home team in that series last year. It was 3 versus 5. They ultimately missed an opportunity last year, even though Dallas was certainly playing really well. Another Michael, neither of them me. Did the whole world forget the Wolves were favored before Steph got hurt? That kind of speaks to our point. Like, I think that's true. Like, there was the narrative, and obviously this is a different series. We're not saying this wouldn't be a different series if he was healthy, but the Wolves were still the better team, I think, if Curry plays. Now, he's magic. He might have just had some. He might have just had a game or two where you just couldn't guard him, and he pulls out a shot, and you lose the series, and you look back on, and you're like, man, that was just Steph being Steph. But I think 6 or 7 out of 10 times they win that series against Curry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as you said it perfectly, the Wolves are definitely favored. You have the inexperience, but the depth, for the Wolves. You have a guy who believes he's the best player on the court, Ant, right? And then against the Warriors, where you probably, with all respect to Finch, Steve Kerr's a Hall of Famer. You have the better coach. And that's the experience with Steph, Jimmy, and Dre. So that would have been the battle there.
Yeah.
I really think in a long series, I think the Wolves actually went out that series because they're not completely inexperienced. This team was in the Western Conference Finals last year, so they know what to expect. And then, whether he wants to say it or not, is on a mission to take out the stars. And he doesn't want to be the face of the NBA. He doesn't have a choice now, bro.
No,
I mean, sorry, man, just accept it. That's how it goes.
That's how you are.
Wolves are favored for sure, and they should have been. And I think they would have won the series regardless.
Couple more here. These are kind of legacy questions, and we'll get out of here. I'm not sure. This is Moose K fan. I'm not sure they were giving it max effort as if they knew they didn't actually have to in order to win. I'm not sure what that means going forward. Stan Van Gundy said this is the golden era of Wolves basketball, and I think he's 100% right. I mean, this is it. I mean, they went to the playoffs, I think, 7 or 8 straight years with Kevin Garnett, starting in, it was 8 straight years, 96, 97 through 03, 04. They didn't win a playoff series until that last of 8 when they went to the Western Conference Finals. After that, they went to 1 playoffs between 2005 and 2021. The KG era was marked by a lot of pretty good regular seasons and then frustrating exits. They just couldn't build the right team around him until the very end, and then they had to trade him to Boston. This team is built much differently. They've got the right guys around their superstar at a very young age. This is certainly the best it's ever been here. I think that's 100% true.
I mean, I don't think it's to the first part of the question. I kind of disagree. I think the Wolves actually were. It's a game 5. They expect you to close it out. The emotions, the intensity can be really ramped up, and that can actually hurt you and get you out of your flow. I thought the Wolves did a really good job of just staying very even killed. You can see the Warriors; they came out played hard, but there wasn't like the Warriors understood they couldn't be too amped up and too intense, and the Wolves understood that as well. And I really I really like the way they approach this game and kind of handle their business in that regard. As far as legacy goes, I mean, yeah, this is the golden era of Wolves basketball. It really is. This is a team that, if you look at everyone else who's remaining right now, I mean, is there anyone you really want to take over them to win a finals? If you really think about it, probably not. I mean, Ant might be the best player remaining, especially once Jokic, Shea, or one of those guys are gone after this game and their series finishes up. This is a team that is probably the deepest left, apart from maybe OKC. So it's really interesting. But this is the golden era of Wolves basketball, and they're young. This is a young team. I mean, Nas Reed looks like he's 73, but he's only 25. So, I mean, this is a really young team that is just going to continue to grow and get better. So I think they're just scratching the surface, but at the same time, they got that experience last year. So this is a team that fully expects to not just be in the finals, but win it.
Coach Jet wants to know, does going to back-to-back Western Conference Finals moves Finch to the best coach in franchise history? Does Ant move past Garnett as best player? He says, I say yes to Finch, but not yet on Ant. I agree with that. I think that's about
I agree with
right.
that too.
I think
that's
Finch has done enough here. 4 straight playoffs to completely turning things around. They've won 6 playoff series in their entire history. 4 of them have been with Chris Finch in the last 2 years. And they probably should have beat Memphis a few years ago, too, if they had a little bit more experience in that series. I think if Ant wasn't 20 at the time, they probably win that series, too. I think he takes some hits. I think people look at his style, think he's maybe a little bit too lax, doesn't push the right buttons, but this is working. It's working. He lets things come together on their own terms and make sure that's going. But yeah, you're not KG yet. He won an MVP.
No.
He's a Hall of Famer. He was an Olympian like many times over. Like he's still that guy. Now 5 years from now, I think the conversation is different. But right now that's where we are still.
I would say Ant is on the trajectory to pass KG, but not yet.
Yeah,
that's my take. And I agree with Finch. I mean, the one thing I'm really curious about Chris Finch, and I really want to see next series is I don't always agree with his usage of timeouts. I don't think he uses enough of them at the right time. And I think I want to see him, like, if OKC starts to make a little run, Finch has a tendency to let his team play through it, which is great in the regular season. Like, honestly, you can care less when the playoffs. That's what I think. That's, I think, how the Warriors kind of stayed in these games, for the most part, is that Kerr did a great job of using his timeouts specifically to stop any momentum that the Wolves were really going to gain. So I want to see Finch make that adjustment, but also it could be a thing where he just wasn't really threatened enough to do so.
Sure.
So that'll be curious. But yeah, Finch is definitely the best coach in Wolves history. And I think, KG is still the GOAT of the Wolves, but Ant is on the trajectory to pass him. I mean, they win a finals this year, and he's the finals MVP. I mean, it's a done deal at that point.
I think he's already number 2, even after just 5 years here. Even Cat's numbers were great in 9 years, but I think Ant has surpassed Cat already at this point.
Well, it's the sixth youngest player in NBA history to reach 1,000 points in the playoffs.
And he did it in 37 games, tied for the fewest number of games. Yeah, that's
unreal.
Amazing. On that list, I saw that list up there too. Well, this has been fun. We'll see. We got to watch Game 6 for Denver OKC to know when this next series is going to start. It could start as soon as Sunday. If Denver forces a Game 7, it will be Tuesday. So we'll see. Big stuff in the works for that. Stay tuned for that. Ryan, great stuff as always. Let's go finish up the rest of our work, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Sounds good. Have a good one.